System test. Oop. System test. System test. System test. Yeah, so we're getting it. It's popping over there. Okay.
Okay, audio test, audio test, audio test. Check 1 2, check. Check 1 2, check, check. Check 1 2, check, check. Audio test.
I don't think it is.
Well, it's turned all the way up.
Do you think it's coming through?
It should be. It should be. We tested it beforehand.
What's that?
We tested it beforehand, and it should be working. But I can check on another. See here. Is it easy to take your end off of your device so I can check? If it's maxed out all the way to 5, so it should be as loud as it can go. You can't hear anything.
Can't hear anything out of it.
Let's test one more time with it.
I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah. Check 1 2. This one's working. Okay. Sorry about that. That might just be. It's really loud for me. So let's go ahead and turn this one off. So the other one's working. Oh, okay, good. Well,
Oh, I see.
I just turn this off,
Turn that one on.
and he's gonna try this one.
Okay, you're gonna use that as a headset?
I don't hear anything.
Okay. Can I see your headset here? Check, check, check. Okay. Can you put that to your ear and see if you can hear it? Audio test, check, 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 audio test, audio test.
I can hear you from.
We got it?
We'll just try it.
What's that?
We'll just try it here.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Welcome to East Lansing City Council regular council meeting, October 3rd, 2023. We'll open up with a roll call.
Councilmember Brookover.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Watson. Mayor Pro Tem Gregg.
Here.
Mayor Bacon.
Present. Next, I'll move approval of the agenda with a couple of changes here. We're going to retain the public hearing. I'm going to remove site plan special use permit approval for property at 530 Albert to date certain on October 17th. I'm also going to remove item 5.2, the consideration for parking to date certain on 5/17. So everyone who's here to speak on this portion, I will open public comment, but if it's for the public hearing portion, you can retain your time till then and do all the public comments at once for everything related to Albert, and then everything else, any not related to that, feel free to come during public comment.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah,
Excuse me,
order.
excuse me. Are we deleting then, or deferring 5.1 and 5.2 to that date?
I'm removing the approval of site plan special use permit approval of property. I'll retain the public hearing, which is there'll be no action on this item. No.
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Further discussion? All right. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, item 1.3, approval of the minutes, regular council meeting, September 19th, 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Councilperson Brookover, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gregg. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All written communication received by council is posted to the online agenda packet, and that's all communication received before 4 p.m. Next up, communication from the audience. So like I said, you can retain statements for the Albert piece, 530 Albert piece 2 public hearing. If there's anything outside of that, I welcome those now. I'll take it. All right, welcome to the podium. Anything outside of 530 Albert? That's Kath. Yeah.
Don't start the clock yet. All right. Mayor Bacon, I want to thank you for your service over the last 3 years. The attacks on you and the work you've been doing, especially by our local tabloid, have been unjust. But as I have mentioned before, you know the power of the work that you're doing by the size of the wave that rises up to greet you. I'm here today because I had a pivotal moment at Saturday's use of force hearing that I wanted to share. As all of you know, I'm on the commission, on the Police Oversight Commission. I applied because I care a great deal about this community, and I truly believe most people who live here want everyone to feel welcomed and safe from bias, regardless of their race, gender identity, sexual orientation, etc. But it's clear those ideals aren't upheld by our police department. I have studied policing since I was 8, when Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and the black people grieving his death were beaten and arrested by the police. I witnessed the Rodney King beating in real time, and since the advent of cell phones, cameras, far too many beatings and deaths of black and brown people by cops. Still, I hoped East Lansing could be better. Unfortunately, the data doesn't support better or even good. Eric Williams and Chris Root presented the Commission's 2022 annual report, and the data was horrifying. Black people were stopped, arrested, and had force used upon them at a rate significantly higher than they are represented in the population. In late 2018-2019, a young black man's face was smashed into the pavement. The picture posted on Facebook showed skin missing from most of the side of his face. His crime? Videotaping his friend's arrest. Only days later, we learned that the same officer did this to an elderly black man who was stopped for failure to signal his turn out of the Meyer parking lot. Then Captain Connolly reported to the community that the force was justified, and it required community outrage to get the charges dropped. In April of 2022, East Lansing Police Department chased a young black man out of Meyer and shot him, endangering his life and dozens of others without, as decided by the court of first impression, reasonable suspicion. Again, ELPD investigation turned up 0 policy violations for the actual shooting. We have learned of a black man who requested to be breathalyzed to decide if he should drive home. Instead, ELPD refused and allowed him to get behind the wheel, where they followed him and arrested him for OWI. At the same meeting, we learned of a white woman outside the bar being told not to drive and was offered a ride or even an Uber. Recently, a white woman suspected of OWI was told to pull over and turn off her engine to avoid an OWI. All of these concerns about biased treatment were met with excuses and no policy violations. But there's more. In 2018, I personally encountered a white man having a seizure on Bircham. 911 was called. Paramedics and police showed up simultaneously. The police directed traffic, and the paramedics assisted the man in the crisis. In 2022, a black man seized on Grand River. When police arrived, he was coming around and trying to collect his belongings. The police physically forced him to sit and then forced him onto the gurney, forcibly searching him and his fanny pack. The prosecutor's office declared the search illegal, and this part of the complaint was sustained, but no racial bias was found because the investigator did not hear any racial slurs. Recently, an officer was cited for conduct unbecoming for calling 2 Asian men young and dumb, but no racial bias was found again because the investigator did not hear racial slurs. In December, a black man was ticketed on Mack Ave while waiting in his car for his girlfriend. While arguing with the PACE officer, he was given a second citation. He returned to the site 20 minutes later to get photos, only to witness the same PACE officer signal to a white driver parked in the exact same spot to move forward and avoid a ticket. The investigation found no racial bias and was signed off by the chief in August prior to the commission voting on a final recommendation. We have a problem, and the commission has been working on solutions. This past Saturday, we hosted the second part of a use of force hearing initiated after the Meyer shooting. When participants were asked for their single best solution, most offered some of the usual more training, DEI, which 60% of our police department refused to attend once it was made optional. That was the city's DEI. Changes to policy, procedure, and/or oversight. However, the man sitting next to me wrote down, admit that racism exists within the ELPD. It was then that I realized that not one person I've encountered, from the chief to the social workers to the records department, has admitted that there is racism in policing and in ELPD. If you don't believe there's a problem, you aren't going to make the effort to fix it. The Michigan Department of Civil Rights asked the city of Grand Rapids to provide evidence that the harm they caused to 2 different black complainants was also done to people of other races. Grand Rapids could not. East Lansing probably could not. We have a complaint
30
investigator
seconds remaining.
who believes racism is only present if one uses a racial slur. He does not, nor does he appear to want to understand racism, and he should not be doing complaint investigations. My request tonight is that the current council and the new council, as well as the new city manager, take these concerns seriously. The police budget this past summer proclaimed a desire to be the leader in the nation. This is pie in the sky until we directly and thoroughly address racism by admitting it exists and then working to end it within our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Communication from the audience? Communication from council? Councilperson Garcia?
Nothing, thank you.
Councilperson Brookover?
Nothing, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregg?
I just wanted to welcome Robert Bellman after his first week and a half, and everything I've heard has been great, so keep it up.
Thank you. And I'll make a motion for excused absence for Councilperson Watson.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And I think I don't really have much. I just want to welcome City Manager Bellman to his first week or so on the job, and just wish him good luck in the process, and just know that we're here to support and help in any way that we can. City Manager's report.
Couple items, just to reiterate, absentee ballots now available for East Lansing voters for the November election, either through the city clerk's office or online from the Michigan Voter Information Center. Secondly, the East Lansing Youth Commission is seeking applications to serve. So residents and students between the ages of 14 and 18, it's a 9-member Commission. So sign up, participate. Last one is the photo contest for the City of East Lansing 2024 calendar is underway. Please submit your photos via the city's website by midnight on October 15th. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney's report.
I have nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, for the benefit of the audience, would you explain from a legal standpoint what the council did with regard to the reorganization of the agenda, please?
Sure. There were 2 modifications made to the agenda. The first was item 4.1, as initially drafted, included the public hearing as well as consideration of the motion to approve the site plan and special use permit approval for the property at 530 Albert Avenue. It took the portion regarding consideration of the motion to a date certain on October 17th. The public hearing remains as item 4.1, and the second was moving item 5.2, consideration of a parking agreement with 530 Albert 2023 LLC to a date certain of October 17th, 2023.
And the practical effect of that is that all the folks that are here can say what they want to say tonight. We're not going to vote on anything tonight, and we didn't have to vote on anything tonight, correct? Because this was the first reading, essentially. This is the first step in the public hearing, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then everybody can come back on October 17th if they want to, and they can speak. And then, at least at this point, it would appear that we'll take a vote on October 17th, correct?
There won't be another public hearing required on October 17th, but there will be public comment when all members of the public are free to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda.
There are 3 items on tonight's consent agenda. First is 3.1 to approve the appointment of Chuck Gagnier to the East Lansing Independent Police.
Chuck Gagnier, excuse me.
Gagnier, I'm
Chuck
sorry.
Gagnier.
Gagnier to the East Lansing Independent Police Oversight Commission for a partial term ending December 31st, 2024. 3.2 is to approve the updated assignment and extension of the agreement between the City of East Lansing and Active Living for All, now operating as Forster Woods Adult Day Center, and authorize the city manager to sign. And 3.3 is a resolution celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved by Councilperson Brookover, second by Mayor Pro Tem Gregg. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, item 4.1, consideration of a request for 530 Albert 2023 LLC for site plan. Well, strike that. LLC. The proposed application would construct a 5-story building with 122 units of affordable housing, rental housing, and approximately 1,100 square foot of commercial space on the 0.68 acre site, Zone B3, City Center Commercial District.
Good evening, Council. Tim Dempsey, Interim Director of Planning, Building, and Development. So typically, when we hold these public hearings, I'll go through the project, give you an overview, and have an opportunity to ask questions. But since you have decided to push any decision at least until the October 17th meeting, I do want to check and see, would you still like me to do that, or do you want to go right to the public hearing? I'm obviously happy to do that, but I also want to recognize the change in process here. And
I guess personally, I would rather have it on the 17th, rather than have you repeat it at both meetings.
okay.
Was that agreeable? I think just out of respect for the crowd and the group of time here, we'll move to the public hearing if that's okay with you. So-
Absolutely, and I'll remain here for any questions that might arise as you have them.
Thank you.
All right, I'll open up the public hearing. First up, Josh.
I just want to make sure, are we declaring the public hearing open?
I'm declaring the public hearing
I
open.
didn't hear that. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Mhm. Josh Vermas.
Okay, it is me. Great. All right, I have prepared notes this time. Let's see if I actually can get to them correctly. So I should be putting my kid to bed right now, but I'm here because I believe that that parking lot has got to go. So we need affordable housing, and we especially need it at that site near downtown. So it's within walking distance to a lot of employers. So MSU FCU has their new big downtown office building there. There are going to be other big downtown developments in that area, including things that already exist. Also, you can't ignore that MSU is right across the street over in Grand River. Like, you can do a lot without a car if you happen to live there, right? The Target's right down the street to go get your groceries, all that good stuff. There's even Campbell's County Market, like right across the alley. Those are like the strongest reasons for why you absolutely need affordable housing right there. And the other part that I'd like to bring up is that not everyone at MSU is a student. There are plenty of folks who I work with, so I'm a faculty member at MSU, who don't make as much money as I do. And currently, I can tell you exactly where all the people I work with live. Many of them don't live in East Lansing because they can't afford it. And those that do live in East Lansing live really far away because that's all they can actually afford. So having more options that are close to downtown, I think are going to be good. Particularly because if you just think about the expense of owning a car, right? Insurance is expensive. Let's put that at like $1,000 a year. You need gas to drive that car somewhere, or maybe they're an EV, sure, that's cheaper, but you still need to park the car somewhere. And let's say you're going to park it at MSU, that's another $500 or so that you're spending on a parking permit. If you're not making a ton of money, that's a lot of money invested in something that's a depreciating asset that's basically to get you from point A to point B. So my main issue for why I think this is a good idea, and why I appreciate going first so I can go home and actually put my kid to bed, is it's just the right place to build affordable housing. Is the plan perfect? Not necessarily, right? I know a lot of folks are going to be talking about the parking situation, and especially during construction, the loss of the parking lot that the city currently owns. If it were up to me, I would just put the construction staging on Albert and close Albert, because really you can just drive around via Ann or whatever for however long it takes to build this particular structure. So with that, I know there are a bunch of people behind me. Thanks for listening to me, and see you around, guys.
Thank you. Al Bay?
My name is Al Bay, and I live at 512 Albert Avenue, otherwise known as the Wild Goose Inn. I'm concerned that the proposed development for 530 Albert could do irreparable harm to the businesses on the 500 block of downtown East Lansing. As an adjacent property owner, I fear this proposal could eliminate most of the trees on the east side of the Wild Goose Inn and create a sterile environment next to the inn, consisting of a 5-foot cement sidewalk between a 5-story wall and a fence. It is difficult to discern what the landscape plan is for the west side of the development. This proposal is missing a comprehensive landscape plan, including preserving the 40-foot-long iron fence located on the lot line at the front of the property. This fence was salvaged from the guardrails of the Kalamazoo Street Bridge. Number 2, maintaining the 20-foot-long stone retaining wall in the middle of the property. Number 3, when the parking lot was developed, due to the anticipated increase in activity, the City of East Lansing constructed a 55-foot fence north of the garage. A permanent 8-foot privacy fence must be in place to protect the privacy of my home and the guests of the Wild Goose Inn. Every effort to preserve trees on the lot line must be made. Currently, the guests of the Wild Goose Inn can park next to the bed and breakfast and unload and load their luggage. Some plan must be developed to safely unload and load their belongings. Delineating the above concern should not be misconstrued as an acceptance of the inevitability of the development. As currently formulated, This proposal is bad for East Lansing, resulting in a decrease in the number of visitors to our downtown. We will not give up on creating a vibrant business district in the 500 block of downtown East Lansing. We want to work together to find a better alternative. So in June, we had an idea to form a group that would try to gather up the businesses in the 500 block and the surrounding neighborhoods of East Lansing to push back on the Albert Avenue development proposal. Citizens to Protect East Lansing Access was born. We talked to neighborhood associations, business owners, and real estate owners. We canvassed door to door and collected signatures. We started a website and reached out to MSU alumni, past residents, and former downtown employees. We went to planning commission meetings, development authority meetings, and football games. We started a petition, and here's what we found. This community is strong. The people who live here and went to school here and work here care. They want the best for this city, and they are united against this proposal. These petitions are not just names on pieces of paper. They represent the will of the people you represent. I will leave with you close to 900 signatures. I'm encouraged by the time I spent meeting with people in the community and listening to what they have to say. I'm encouraged by their unity, and I'm hopeful for the future of this city. And I'm hopeful that you, our representatives, will really hear what we are saying and will act appropriately on our behalf. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Can we go to the phones if they're going to, I don't want to leave them there for the entirety of the.
Caller with a number ending in 954, you're welcome to address council.
Hello. Can I be heard?
Yes.
Yeah. This is Nicole Kiway Fiber. I live on Blanchette Street in the Pinecrest neighborhood. I actually was going to do the general public comment, but I can make things fit together, I think. So, if the building happens, I appreciate that it's only 5 stories. I think that's probably a maximum. I was really dismayed when those very tall buildings went up. I felt like it kind of undermined the character and the draw of our downtown. That was those older, smaller buildings. So if it happens, I'm glad it's not more than 5 feet. One reason, and why I had called originally. Currently, it's the bird migration, and small efforts can be made to help the birds with that. And one of them is turning off all extraneous, unnecessary lighting, particularly in tall buildings. I feel like that's a good example of something we can do to, be aware of the fact that we're not the only living beings on this planet. But also to think about how with development and different urban planning, certain things aren't taken into consideration that in retrospect really would have been well advised to. So in addition to it being harmful for birds, you have very tall buildings that are just lit up just because. Also, buildings can create more heat islands if it cuts off the breeze in certain places where it used to go through. So I appreciate the gentleman who was mentioning the landscaping plan. Maybe see it as an opportunity to realize that decisions can be made that are more practical for the fact that we can't survive if there's not leaves, and that all the beings that were here before us kind of are necessary to life as well. So just to encourage people to think about that as we go into fall. I'm dismayed to know that the leaf blowers are going to start up. I feel like if I played my radio loud, I'd get in trouble pretty quick, but for some reason it's okay for us to all have this noise pollution kind of constantly going. So if you left the leaves, then that builds soil. And just one more thing about that, if people are curious about what it looks like, if it's not just mowed grass and tiny shrubs and sort of like a concrete jungle, I came upon a nice little Instagram page. That's Earthly Education. I encourage people to look at that. But also, if you're curious for yourself, how you can kind of help with the current 6 mass extinction, Xerces Society, XERCES, has nice tips on how you can, even just on a small scale, encourage there to be a greater biodiversity. So yeah, glad it's not taller than 5 stories if it happens. Maybe think about the natural world more in terms of when things are developed, and preferably the few green spaces we have left, leave those be. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it.
Dudley Smith.
Hello, and thank you for your time. I noticed that the potential vote on this was delayed by a couple of weeks. I think the message to all of us here that are opposed to this should be that this is going to be a close vote, and we should not give up. Perhaps one person not being here tonight is a reason to delay the vote because they were necessary in an attempt to approve this. I'm speaking many things to the council tonight, but I'm speaking a lot to the people behind me. I'm sorry for not looking at you while I do this, but I want the things to be on record in the microphone. We need to all come back on October 17th. We need to not give up in making it well known to this council that this is one of the least popular proposals to come before them in a long time. And that happens when we show up and when we speak and we give our mind to this council. October 17th, right? Al, thank you. 900 signatures is significant. I think besides this being obviously unpopular, the other points I wanted to make, well, I don't want anybody to think that us here are against low-income housing. I think it's a thing we need in this community, and probably every community in the country needs more of. If we can turn a parking lot into low-income housing, why can't we take a few old rental houses, turn that into low-income housing? The Hagens were good at turning a few houses right across the street from this parking lot into 21-unit, higher density properties. Maybe there are other lots that don't take away our parking lot, that don't damage the local businesses, where we can put some low-income housing. Let's take a quick vote. Who's against low-income housing here tonight? Who's against this proposal here tonight? Don't mistake being against this proposal. This is not one of those, oh, do it, but not in my backyard. I don't think anybody here is saying that. Right across the street would be a great place. The Hagens already have their buildings there, but close by, on Charles Street, on Division Street, there are lots of places we can put this kind of thing near downtown that doesn't damage the local businesses, doesn't take away the last parking lot. I don't know. I think that's probably enough. October 17th, we're all going to be back here, right? I think you all know why this is in a big room tonight and not in City Hall. It's because of all of you. It's because everybody knows we're coming, and we're going to make it clear to this council how bad an idea this is. Thanks, everybody.
Justin Booth.
Thank you. My name is Justin Booth. I am speaking to you tonight as the chair of the Bailey Community Association. Our neighborhood organization is united in our deep concern regarding the proposed construction of apartments on 530 Alpert Ave. We do feel additional affordable housing is essential to our community, as evidenced by our support of the Bailey Community Center redevelopment in 2016. That's been a big success for our neighborhood. Affordable housing is the right idea, but this is the wrong location. The BCA has submitted a statement that should be found in your packet, highlighting our points against 530 Albert Ave site plan. One critical aspect of our downtown vitality is parking. Parking is not merely a convenience, it is an essential lifeline for our retail and service businesses. It is crucial to recognize that removing parking spaces directly threatens the economic sustainability of our local enterprises on the 500 block business owners, as you will hear more of today. This site is inadequate for the scope of the project. The very footprint of this proposed multifamily 5-story mid-sized structure spanning over 18,000 square feet stands in stark contrast to the meager 0.69 acres of land available. Such proportions raise serious doubts about the feasibility and safety of shoehorning a 122-unit structure into this limited space, particularly while removing valuable parking of our small businesses. Again, affordable housing is the right idea, but this is the wrong location. We would much rather see a renewed lease for the parking lot or suggest that the city consider buying the lot at market rate, then engage our business owners here today in thoughtful conversation about how to better support them. Our downtown is a heartbeat of our city, a place where local businesses must be supported to thrive. We stand in solidarity with our fellow community members who have expressed their fears and reservations about this development. Thank you.
David Bernath.
Hello, my name is Dave Bernath. I'm the owner of Flat Black and Circular, 541 East Grand River. Been there for many years. I moved there many years ago because I liked the location, that it was close to MSU, that we had parking. Buying and selling records has worked out good for me for 40 some years, and now this parking lot does not fit in with what I'm doing. People have to drag records. Records are heavy, 50-pound things. If they got to drag them 2 blocks, what's the 1,085 feet one way, 1,085 feet the other way, if it's nice weather. If it's bad weather, it's going to be not good. I'm strongly opposed to this. Does none of the things that I've been paying taxes for. The community does not support it. We do not want this project in this space, and we ask the council not approve these variances and tax breaks at our expense. And also the fact that this has been delayed. Don't we have an election coming up in beginning of November, when we'll have actual elected officials who can decide? The city and city council has been in disarray here for quite some time, and I would propose that we wait until we have elected officials to represent us to decide this thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack McDermott.
Good evening. My name is Jack McDermott. I appreciate this opportunity to see democracy and justice in action today. I work at 521 East Grand River, also known as the Peanut Barrel, and on September 1st, 2023, just a month ago, I celebrated my 19th anniversary working there. And it may seem like a long time, but when you have great owners like Joe Bell, who's been a mentor to me, and just helped me in every aspect of my life pretty much, it's not that long a time at all. I get once or twice a week, someone, when I'm behind the bar, someone says, "Hey, you the owner?" And I go, "Not yet, but maybe one of these days." But it's not just because I look old, it's because I care. I treat the place like I did own it. I pick up stuff off the floor. I take that napkin away from you. I make sure the straw wrappers aren't all over the place. And now, with Mike Kruger's leadership, he's our new owner, hopefully one day I'll get to celebrate my 25th silver anniversary at the Peanut Barrel. If this building goes up,
That is severely threatened. Well, I'm the workforce. I am workforce. That's what this is built for, workforce affordable housing. I park in that parking ramp where everybody wants to move all the potential customers and also the residents of this building. Here's the gig. That parking ramp is not very good. It's very old, and people say that the second floor is underutilized. It is, it's true. You drive up the ramp, first floor is full, second floor is empty. When you get to the permitted area, the third through the fifth, which is the roof, it's quite full. And sometimes you have to park on the roof, which in snowy weather is not great. Also, speaking of snowy weather, the elevators by the handicap spots are in the northwest corner. That makes it a full 2 blocks. Dave said, thousands of steps to get from that elevator to my back door at the peanut barrel, because you got to go over, and through. And someone who's in a wheelchair in snowy and icy weather, especially in that back alley that doesn't get plowed maybe as often as it should, that's going to be a severe deterrence, and they might just not come to our businesses. Also, in the wintertime, just this past year, 5 or 6 times when it got really cold, the elevators stopped working. There were certain times when the elevator doors were open and there were snowdrifts in the elevators. And at the time, I had a sprained knee, so I had to hop down 4 flights of stairs to get down to the ground level. That is not a great ideal for parking for anyone. Now, also they call this affordable housing. And they want $1,100 a month for a studio apartment. $1,100 a month. And that's today's rate. It's going to take 2 years to build this, and the rates might go up from there. That's more than double what I pay for a 1-bedroom apartment in Groesbeck. More than double. Now, no one who works on that block could afford $1,100 a month. None of the other bartenders, tattoo artists, yoga people, they couldn't afford that. $1,100 a month shouldn't be a monthly payment for a small apartment. It should be a mortgage payment for a small house. This building could cause that. And not only could the building be unaffordable, but it's going to be 2 years before it's even done. So people say, oh, it'll be great for the businesses because all the people that live there will go to your business. Well, if my business isn't open in 2 years, no one's going to go there. 2 years from when the shovel hits the ground till it's open. And that's if it's on time. Yoga State, Splash of Color, Campbell's Market, Flat Black and Circular, and my Peanut Barrel with the best patio in town might not be there in 2 years if this building is approved. 521 East Grand River, maybe it's a Subway. After you get your foot-long sub, you can go around the corner to where the Wild Goose Inn used to be, and now it's a Dairy Queen. Sally Potter brought this up at one of the planning commissions. That's going to happen. If people think that's funny. 301 MAC, Suite A. Anyone remember what that was? The Small Planet. Now it's a CVS. And it's just sad. In summation, anyway, this building causes a parking nightmare. This building is not
30
affordable.
seconds remaining.
This building is not affordable, and this building will close local businesses. I want to help everybody. I want everybody to be there on my silver anniversary at the Small Planet. Vote no on this building project. Thank you.
Roy Saper.
My name is Roy Saper, a resident of East Lansing since 1969 and owner of a downtown business since 1978. I bought land and built a gallery building at 433 Albert in 1985. I've observed and shopped in the 500 block of Albert for decades, long before a portion of it was leased by the city for use as public parking. I'm speaking in support of the 530 Albert Avenue project. Truth and reality. Conjecture and ad hoc posits are not reality. There has been no study of 500 block businesses that surveys the distribution of means by which customers travel to visit those businesses. There is no evidence that proves that any business in the 500 block would close due to the city reducing the number of surface parking spaces there. Claiming such is not fact. City Council has eliminated the surface parking in the 100 block of Abbott, the 100, 200 block of Albert, the MSU Federal Credit Union area, and the Ann Street Plaza. Additionally, numerous studies have proven that the 500 block surface parking is underutilized, as is the adjacent Division Street ramp, among others. Councils have long adhered to the master plan to move away from surface lots to a higher and better use for those properties. The project before you is consistent with what you've done elsewhere in downtown without exception. What do we know? We know that the city will no longer lease a privately owned 500 block property for parking. We know that the property owners are not going to use the property for parking. We know that no one has come forward to purchase the property for parking. The privately owned property will be developed. Before you is the one project that fits precisely what you have pronounced as a need, affordable housing for working people. This city has studied housing for 30 years. A HUD study 10 years ago focused on the need for affordable housing here. 2003 extensive housing needs assessment focused on the housing affordability challenges in East Lansing. The report urged the development of affordable housing. The City Council's strategic planning has stated for years that affordable housing is a goal and objective for East Lansing. That is precisely what you have before you. This is your opportunity to say yes to the need and make affordable housing available in downtown East Lansing. Who benefits? Everyone. Having another 132 residents in our downtown is a boon to each of the 160-plus businesses there. The new residents will be able to walk to clothing, record stores, health and wellness facilities, food stores, restaurants, service providers, among other businesses. Residents of the new building could be employees of downtown businesses. Approving this project provides opportunities not only for the residents themselves, but also for businesses to expand their offerings to meet the additional demand for needed goods and services. A more populated downtown becomes a more vibrant downtown, and that activity becomes a magnet for additional activity. Businesses stay open longer hours. Vacant spaces become more desirable for entrepreneurial pursuits, and the creation of more businesses, particularly those that are unique, locally owned and operated. And increased business activity then becomes destinations of residents who live elsewhere in East Lansing and beyond our local community. Many businesses locate in downtown because of the proximity to pedestrian traffic, particularly from south of Grand River and the Bailey neighborhood where I used to live. But for those who drive there, they find parking in every single block and 15 minutes of free parking in gated lots and many businesses that validate parking for customers. As a business owner of 45 years in downtown East Lansing with many thousands of current clients from near and far, I feel that if a business provides what its customers want, the businesses will thrive, as have many other long-timers in our downtown. Some of those businesses have been in operation in the 500 block for decades, long before public parking was made available in that block. And to point to other examples in our downtown, when surface lots were developed to a higher and better use, new businesses opened. Others did facade and interior improvements, all taking advantage of an increased population in downtown due to the new housing. Having this proposed workforce housing in our downtown is a positive step to broadening the diversity of our downtown and filling the housing void that the city states has been wanting to realize, and provides opportunities to businesses to reach the new residents. This project is a gift to the city by a developer who appears to have success in developing 105 affordable housing projects in 11 states, each project approved by local governing bodies. Meridian Township and Lansing recently announced new affordable housing projects. Don't let East Lansing be void of workforce housing, particularly when your own studies call for what's here being proposed. 4 years ago, City Council approved a site plan for affordable housing near
30
Valley Court
seconds
Park.
remaining.
It was never built. The developer never came through. Your ordinance 1384, aimed at diversifying downtown housing, was intended to promote or provide affordable housing there. In closing, I implore you to say yes to this project, just as the Planning Commission and DDA did, and recognize that this project meets the plans that you've established for our downtown. You're voting yes today, put shovels in the ground tomorrow, diversifies the housing stock in our downtown, provides businesses an increased population of customers just a short walk from their doorsteps. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Metzger?
Hello, Council. My name is Bob Metzger. I'm here on behalf of the Metzger and Fabian family. I'd like to share a few notes from our perspective on the background on the project and our support for ADC and their proposal for affordable housing on the site. In mid-2022, the Metzger-Fabian family met with city representatives and discussed plans for the property. The city shared that they would not enter into another long-term lease with us, and were most interested in a lot being developed for use being developed by us or by a new owner. Following the meeting, the City Council approved staff moving forward on a short-term 12-month lease at the regular meeting held on August 16th, 2022. Following that, the Metzger-Fabian family discussed it. We were not interested in developing the property ourselves, and we hired CBRE, a national commercial real estate brokerage firm, to put together an offering of the lot for developer bids. This was an open bid and available for all interested parties to make an offer on the portion of the property owned by the Metzger-Fabian family. Multiple bids were received. I think it was about 8. And after review, the family chose American Community Development, ACD, a nationally recognized affordable housing developer with a track record of success. Thanks to Roy for sharing some of the notes on their track record. We felt their project proposal was an ideal fit for the long-term goals of the city and would be a valuable addition to our community and the needs of all residents. Right now, we have no interest in moving backward on the development of our property on Albert Avenue. It's our intention to sell the parcel for redevelopment. The city's June 2023 parking studies clearly show there's ample parking in the area, maybe with the exception of 5 or 6 football Saturdays out of the year. And I guess I'd just like to wrap up by saying our family truly believes that development of affordable housing is one of the most important opportunities for our community in many years. We're proud to be part of the project, to have American Community Development's interest in being here. We've worked hard over the past year to find a developer capable of bringing a development project to you that supports the interest of redevelopment by the city and that benefits our community as a whole. We hope you agree, and we hope that this opportunity moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, maybe Harand? I can't quite read the last letter.
Hello, thank you. My name's Jeff Harand. I'm here representing the Harand family and Robert Phipps, who couldn't be here. We are partners in the Grand Plaza, which is in the 500 block. I'm not opposed to affordable housing, and I'm not even opposed to the affordable housing project at this location, which probably most of the people in here don't want to hear. I'm fairly sure none of you on this council here, when we first developed the Grand Plaza over 40 years ago, when we developed the property, the city adopted a policy that parking downtown was to be a city responsibility. Convenient city parking was put in place to encourage developments such as ours, retail developments. I'll repeat that. The city acknowledged that convenient parking was a city responsibility put in place to encourage developments such as ours, retail development. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the city added many conditions to this project. Conditions for lighting, space for deliveries, landscaping, preserving and improving the alley. The planning committee even added other conditions before they would endorse the project. You added a lot of conditions, except one. To allow this development without a condition to accommodate convenient parking for both the new residents of the apartments and preserve the convenient parking promised to the existing downtown businesses is simply wrong. Allowing a development that will create more demand for parking and at the same time eliminate existing parking is plain foolish. This development should not be approved unless the developer is required to change the design of the building to add parking on the first 1 or 2 floors to accommodate the residents and preserve the existing convenient parking for businesses on the 500 block. It's a reasonable compromise. The developer should include parking in the design or pick a different location. Thank you.
Steve Wilson?
Hello. Thank you for having me. I come here as a customer. I don't own any property here. I don't even live in this town. But I come here at least 5 times a week to visit the Peanut Barrel and my friends. I use the Bailey Street parking lot to park in. So I got invested interest in that parking lot for sure. I probably spent $5,000 last year just visiting downtown East Lansing. And in this group right here, there's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars spent. How many people spend over 5,000? Okay. So that was the easiest 100,000 we ever made. I have to say a little something about parking. A couple years ago, I came into the art fair. Drove around, I couldn't find a parking spot anywhere. Granted, there's 100,000 people here. So I drove around and around and around. Kids are out of town. There's constructions on both ends of town. And I ended up out on Bailey Street. I pulled in and I parked, as a bunch of people did, and we walked into town. I went over on campus, I bought a Spartan S, it was a cement, and I carried it all the way back, all the way almost out to the high school. And when I got there, I had a ticket on my car. And I was really upset. So I went back home and I wrote a letter to the chief of police and carbon copied it to the city council, which I never heard from anybody. I really thought this was a user-friendly city. But if this building goes up where you're going to put it, I won't be able to come here. Not because I dislike people, just because there's no place for me to park and I'm not going to walk a block or two. I really appreciate your time and thank you for my friends that are here to support us.
Doug Munson.
Good evening. I think some of you know me. I've written council members and so forth. I am part of CEPOLA. What is a community? Merriam-Webster defines it as a body of persons with a common history or common social, economic, and political interests. Justin Stephen Markman once told me that the first function of government in communities was to protect the people in the community, and that democracy was the vehicle that allowed all of our voices to be heard and represented. Well, tonight we're hearing those voices, and you, the duly elected representatives of this community entrusted to protect their common interests, are here to listen and act on their behalf. This is the fundamental principle of democracy and governance, and I believe everyone on this council is here to improve the city as best as they know how, with their personal interests aside and the good of the community in their hearts. Recently, the relationship between the people of East Lansing and the city of East Lansing has been strained. Tonight, I'm hoping we can get back to the basics of good governance, which are communication, civil discourse, and representation. The evolution of this city that we all care for belongs to all of us, not just city officials, not just the privileged few with the means to get what they want, and certainly not outside developers who arrive to collect public grants. And I am not suggesting our city be beholden to a rabble. Democracy and governance are a construct of ideas, not personal attacks. So, when it comes to the development of Albert Avenue, we have some things to figure out. We must weigh the benefits of this proposal against the shortcomings, which in our view at CEPOLA are multitude. We must also weigh the costs, the cost of losing future development opportunities. That is important. The damages that will accrue to the businesses that have been here paying taxes for years, and the loss of access, which affects the elderly and physically handicapped disproportionately in this case. We understand the benefits of affordable or workforce housing. They're well documented. No one is opposed. But is it possible that the cost at this particular location is just too high? Is it possible there's a better place to do this that has more space and would serve this community more appropriately? Is there a better way to bring diversity and young professionals into our community? Let's have that discussion, because for whatever reasons, it didn't happen in a timely fashion this time. But let's begin now. Let's begin the journey back to trust and civility with hope and respect. The citizens and businesses and associations that oppose this project, they've done their homework, collecting nearly 1,000 signatures, enlisting a well-known economist to review the project and going door to door throughout our neighborhoods. I recommend everybody here who thinks they're an economist read the letter that we got from an actual economist about this. This is the basis of CEPLA, Citizens to Protect East Lansing Access. There are no smoke and mirrors here. It is our intention to stop this project from happening and developing one that works for this community as a whole. We are organized, legally represented, and we vote. And we will exercise the rights we have under the law and the city charter. To the outgoing council members, thank you for your service and your contributions during your time here. They are many. But for those who stay and those who come next, God bless you for doing this job. I'm Doug Munson. I'm a CEPLA supporter. Thank you.
Dick Solomon.
Hello. My name's Dick Solomon, and I'm here to read a letter from a really good friend of mine, Joe and Jennifer Bell. Dear council members, we hope this letter finds you all well. We are writing this letter as a concerned former business owner, the Peanut Barrel, and persons with vested interest in the well-being of all the small businesses on the 500 block of East Grand River and Albert Avenue. Of course, over the last few months, we've become aware of the proposed development at 530 Albert Avenue, and we must express our strong opposition to this endeavor. May we suggest that this is a useful living concept and would be located at the wrong place. Most would agree that workforce housing is a benefit to our community. Many would also agree that eliminating most of the parking for the existing businesses in the block that would be a big disadvantage, a big mistake, as well as placing the 500 block at a business disadvantage to the rest of the city. Developing this land in this way eliminates any opportunity to add parking in the future. Even the developer sees that the value of the parking as the proposed retail space in the building is located directly adjacent to the few remaining parking spots. One of our largest concerns in this development would be to create a huge disruption to all who wish to visit or do business on that block. The 2-year construction period alone would be a disaster and could result in the displacement or closure of long-standing establishments, leading to job losses and the loss of local character. If this development is allowed to be completed, people wanting to visit the business on the 500 block would be presented with challenges of access and would cause unwarranted changes in the shopping and dining habits. We do recognize that the property owners have the right to develop their land. We are confused by the process that caused this land to be offered for sale rather than to continue with the current use. If the land must be developed, we ask that a different proposal be considered. Housing that includes line-of-sight parking and minimizes the loss of existing parking spaces seems like a proper compromise solution for all involved. Please consider rejecting this proposal as presented and work transparently with other property owners and all stakeholders in the 500 block towards a solution that's a benefit for all. Best regards, Jennifer and Joe Bell. Thank you.
Thank you. Sally Porter.
It's Sally Potter. I've been going to the Peanut Barrel since 1984. Rodeo, medium well, cheese on rye, and fries. sometimes a basket. In January of 2012, Benjamin, his friends call him BJ, gathered up his wife and 3 daughters and left home in South Korea in search of a better life and new opportunities. He landed in East Lansing in 2014, bought which is now Sushi-ya. He chose the location based on its proximity to MSU and the plentiful backside parking, which he knew were the most important factors to his restaurant. I owned a used sporting goods store for 15 years across from Frandor. The only reason it survived was parking. I'm now the general manager of the East Side Lansing Food Co-op in the 1600 block of Kalamazoo. The only reason it survives is parking. Parking is everything. Don't think it's not. Midwesterners do not use parking ramps. That's why the second story is empty. They're not safe. They get snowed. Cement and salt and water don't last. BJ, his brave family crossed the ocean, left everything they knew behind to come to this city. They poured their life savings into this business. This development puts his business at risk. He is opposed to this project. A business owner in that block. It's his life. Lauren Cumberbatch Cumberbatch, it's like the English guy, Lauren Cumberbatch. She's very cool, had a dream she would someday own a spa. She wanted to represent black skin in a new way, breaking all the old stereotypes of skincare. She built her team, focused on the most important part of any business, the community. She attended events, gave away cards. Today, her spa Skin 211 has received over 310 5-star reviews, was voted the #1 spa in Lansing area, and has received 13 awards in 2 years. Lauren's customers come from the broader metro area, and they park behind her store. She knows that with reduced access, her business will have to move. They're going to move, and a subway is going to come in. The corporate people who make decisions to put restaurants in that city over there that don't understand the city. 2 questions. Has anybody sat behind the 500 block for 3 days in a row and counted customers? The missing argument that was at the last one that I attended and this one, has anybody done not only a customer count of people coming out of their cars, me, to go to the Peanut Barrel to have a burger and a rodeo, medium rye, cheese, fries? No, we're talking about something that no one's done the numbers on. I agree with Roy for one thing, no one's done the numbers. You've got to talk about average check and the number of people who go into the store. The Eastside Lansing Food Co-op has it. We've only been open a year. Galleries need 1 or 2 or 3 customers a day. And Roy has a parking spot. Okay? He has a parking lot. Okay? A bar or a restaurant, if you do the numbers, they need 200 to 300 customers a day within, 14 hours. They need 15 people to come in, spend $10 to $15 to $20 and go home. Where the hell are they going to park? Flat Black and Circular, I had a used sporting goods store for 15 years, right? I had between 20 and 25 paying customers a day, but my tickets were higher. My guess is that Dave has between 40 and 50. Now, Dave's problem is not sales. Used stores, the problem is supply. If I didn't have parking right in front of my used sporting goods store, the 50-year-old housewives and their kids are gone, and the guys too, they'd pull up and they'd open their trunk and they'd say, what can you sell? What can I sell to you? What can you buy so you can sell it? Dave needs parking right there. And the first guy, I know I got 30 seconds, the first guy who came up said, all these people in the apartment buildings can go to Campbell's. No, they can't. Campbell's is not going to survive if they lose 20 to 25 to 30% of their people. They are not going to survive. FBC is going to move. Chipotle's, corporate people are going to say, we got to go. So if you build this stupid idea, a great idea in a stupid spot, and one by one, those small businesses, which I've run for years, are going to go away. because the margins are too thin and every customer is too important, and you are taking away their most valuable resource, parking.
Thank you. Jeffrey Hank?
Good evening, Council. Jeffrey Hank. I'm a resident of East Lansing. Personally opposed to this project, but I'm here tonight in professional capacity as legal counsel for Citizens to Protect East Lansing Access, which I believe at this point we've had over 1,000 people, 20 to 30 of the surrounding businesses and property owners, the Bailey Community Association neighborhood group, which is most affected, almost unanimously against this project. And I know that some people are listening. And I want to welcome the new city manager because you've stepped into a good mix already here. But I hope people listen because a lot of the problems we've had in the city for the years are that people didn't listen. And if we're down to a 2-2 vote and we delayed it for one person not being here tonight, and we're going to come back in 2 weeks and this project's going to be shoved down our throat, it's just going to further the acrimony and the distrust and the problems in this community. And for the two of you who are leaving, I hope this isn't one of your final legacy acts because don't do it. Don't do it. And I don't know how people are going to vote, but that's what people think. So I'm going to be honest with you and tell you what everybody thinks. People are against this project. You've heard it. We're not against workforce housing. There's a lot of issues with this. Under the city code, you can reject this project. It doesn't benefit the community as a whole. It damages adjacent properties. Can you imagine Wild Goose Inn's one of the most iconic businesses downtown. Al's going to have a 5-story concrete building next to him. People walk through that parking lot right next to his property all the time. Another provision under the city code is access. A lot of people access that alleyway, they access that parking lot, they walk through those businesses. I walk through to Campbell's. People bringing up Campbell's. The owner of Ken Campbell submitted a letter against this proposal. You've heard from all these local businesses. They all believe this is going to hurt them. There's a perception that the lack of parking is going to hurt. And, this design, people don't like the design. Accommodate the parking, accommodate some setbacks, accommodate, this is our last open space, the Jazz Festival, the Art Festival. I remember I used to sit in the parking lot at Beggar's Banquet, and you could eat and have a beer and watch the Jazz Festival, and it was great, but you can't do that now. We have to shut down the street, the Albert Alfresco. This spot is our last placemaking opportunity downtown, maybe except the far side over by the new developments where something can still be done. That's it. There's no blank slate. You have to tear something down. This is it. So when the City Center 2 project happened and the community wasn't listened to, it caused over a decade of blight, lawsuits, people ended up going to prison, all sorts of distrust and political discord. But at the end of that process, there was at least a charrette. There was community involvement, community input. And we talk about inclusion. Well, we haven't had inclusion, we haven't had input on this, and I think if you heard from people, and we took the time on this, and I first I got to admit I was real frustrated here we're delaying this, and I think just about everybody here was because everybody took time out of their busy lives and schedules to come here tonight to voice and wanted to see action. But on the other hand, delaying this it is better. It definitely is, but that's hopefully not a delay for just to do something here in 2 weeks because a lot more time and thought and input should go into this because this could be a lot better design. Can you imagine having an open space for our cultural events or cafes, or instead of harming all the businesses there, I believe they're going to be harmed, maybe they can have some cafe space in there. The city owns a third of that lot. Do not allow it to be used for construction staging. The DDA said that, the Planning Commission said that. We've heard assumptions that the city will continue to use that lot. We all know what they say about that. Don't make that assumption. Someone here is in charge. Take agency, take authority. When we were at the Planning Commission, everyone was so frustrated because everyone just sort of passed the buck, but the buck should stop somewhere, and it stops with U4, U5, the city manager, and everybody else. A question, and I know you don't typically answer questions, but it should be told to everybody here in this community, what is the effect of giving a pilot? What is the financial impact to the city? Because I've already been retained. We are going to referendum the pilot if you vote for it. We are not going to allow taxpayer money to go out to a development that nobody supports when our own taxes have increased on us citizens. We're tired of that. So we're going to fight this thing if we have to, but we don't want to. We just want you to listen to us and to try to take these considerations, balance them, mitigate it,
30 seconds remaining.
do what you can. I could go on and on, but you have reasons within the code to vote against this project. The majority of citizens are against it. It's a bad idea. It's certainly a bad idea to use taxpayer resources to support it. So I hope you really listen to everybody and take that into consideration and reject this project and this proposal in its current form. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mark, last name starts with C. I can't quite make out your last name. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name's Mark Collitz, and I am a resident of East Lansing. But I'm here tonight for my friend who is the owner of the Peanut Barrel. And he was unable to come tonight, and he asked me to read this letter to you. Dear council members, I am writing today to state my opposition to the proposed development at 530 Albert Street. Ultimately, I believe this particular version of the development is short-sighted. Not only does it remove 90 parking spots for all the businesses in the 500 block, making it the only block of business in the downtown without adequate parking for its customers directly behind or adjacent to the properties, but it completely hamstrings the future development of the 500 block and even the 400 block. Requiring the development to lease up to approximately 120 spots and eliminating the 90 spots of the Bailey lot would put the Division Street garage as the very near capacity on a normal day, making it unlikely that it would never support the future development of either of those blocks. The parking study that was released by the city, although accurate for a particularly normal Thursday, is nowhere indicative of the reality of what parking looks like on the weekends, game days, and for special events. These are the specific days that most businesses in East Lansing actually make money. To take parking away and develop it without putting back in public parking or enough parking for the development is not only short-sighted, but reckless, to just assume that customers will figure it out and put the onus on the backs of the businesses who just finally started to recover from the dip in sales during the pandemic. There will not be any PPP monies or ERTC monies available to help support us. Nobody wants us to have to beg customers to come and patronize their businesses and change their habits that they have formed over the last 23 years of having a place to park near the business they wish to visit. The project will be detrimental to many of these businesses. Of course, I understand that this property is private and that the Metzingers and Fabians do not want to go backwards, ever since the city forced them to develop the lot because they refused to extend the lease agreement that they had for the previous 23 years. However, this is not the right deal for the businesses in the block and the surrounding blocks because, as I stated before, it will hamstring future development. And we are going to end up with even more parking issues like we currently have on the east side of the downtown by the new MSU FCU building. At the Peanut Barrel, we have a saying, support local. We strive to use as many local distributors as possible for our products, do cross promotions with other local businesses, and support countless local charities and organizations with support both financial and gift certificate donations for various local events. I humbly urge you to do the same. Support local and vote no on this version of the project. Michael Kruger, owner of the Peanut Barrel. I'd like to take, just as I have a minute here, an aside on my own tonight. As I came over here, I happened to notice that the parking, when you come here, there are many spots that are designated for seniors for all day long. If you go to the East Lansing Library, the same thing. Parking spots right in front of the building. But what seems to be saying with this project is that if you're a senior, it's okay to come to the Hannah Center. If it's okay, it's come to the library. We'll give you some parking that is adequate for you. But if you go downtown, you're on your own.
Thank you. Rebecca Fryer?
Hi, I'd like to pick up kind of where he left off because I want to address the fact that I'm a senior, if that isn't obvious. I'm a woman, and my knees don't work. My hips have osteoporosis, and where I bought a house in Bailey when I returned to East Lansing in 2001. I returned here for the sense of community. And when I put in my offer on my house, one thing that I said to the realtor was, now I am going to walk from here to the Beggar's Banquet and see how long that takes, and then I'm going to walk to the Peanut Barrel and see how long it takes me to get home from there. Now that was in 2001. Lots happened in 22 years. And I can't walk as much as I would like to. So I think we need to think about people. A community, I don't care where it is nothing without its people, without its residents. And I am not going to go in a parking ramp at this point in my life. I don't feel safe in there. I'm not going to carry a baseball bat to protect myself. I don't know who's going to be on the elevators. I just will not use ramps. I won't. Unless I go with somebody somewhere. And that always can't happen. I mean, that can't always happen. So the people here, I lived here for 13 years, and then I lived in San Diego for 21, and I returned here for my sense of community. I still know Bob and Betty Adler from the Beggar's Banquet. Beggar's Banquet business was impacted by that ramp. That ramp did not help them. That surface lot that was there, all the businesses behind it, clear around the corner to where Mackerel Sky was, that was all impacted by that doggone ramp. And just as Linda Duffermeyer has pointed out in previous planning committees, there was no heads up. Just the sound of core samples being drilled. That's how she found out as a business owner that had been down there for like 30 years. By walking down the alley and seeing them drilling for core samples. When I think about the businesses there, and I don't have any stats or studies or anything like that, but I know Dave Bernath has been there for 40-some years. I know that little market, Campbell's Market, is just so handy instead of driving to Meyer, especially if I can park behind the Peanut Barrel. The tattoo parlor, the yoga studio. The woman that owns the yoga studio renewed her 5-year lease just before she found out that they were going to plan something for that area. She's a single mother. She's going to be wiped out. The tattoo parlor is going to be wiped out. And I don't know why it isn't blatantly clear that that's going to happen. I'm not going to park a block away in the winter. I'm just not going to go where my community is. I'm going to lose my sense of community, and that's what I moved back here for, to get back home. I was tired of the big city, and then within a year of coming back, there come the high rises down there at the west end of East Lansing. And I won't use the MSU Credit Union. I've told them I'm not going in there. There's no drive-through. I'd have to park in the ramp, walk across the busy street. I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. And I'm not the only 74-year-old woman that's not going to do it. You're going to have a lot of us, and probably some men too. But I'm speaking for the women and the seniors and people who want to
30 seconds
maintain their
remaining.
sense of community. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, splash of color.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris LaChance. I've owned Splash of Color Tattoo and Piercing Studio for 29 years now. Splash has been located in the heart of downtown East Lansing for 29 years, the last 23 of which are in the spot we're in now at 515 East Grand River. We love our downtown East Lansing community, and we're proud to call East Lansing home. We find it necessary now to speak out against the affordable housing project proposed to be constructed at 530 Albert Avenue, directly behind Splash of Color. Let me be clear, Splash of Color does not oppose affordable housing. First, we question how the reported $930 per month for a studio apartment or $11.95 for a two-bedroom, plus the additional $110 per month for a parking pass in the Division Street garage would be considered affordable. Secondly, we oppose losing the last large surface parking lot in downtown East Lansing for yet another unseemly and looming apartment building. This project will not replace lost parking and does not incorporate public space. And as housing and business structures went up along Albert between Abbott and Grove, the Bailey lot became the last open location for community events, like serving as the entertainment and food court for art, music, and culinary festivals. On a Splash-specific note, this will affect both employees and staff, impacting the availability of close, accessible parking and barrier-free entrances that enable the use of an elevator for our clients. Lastly, we are disappointed that the City of East Lansing did not and still has not sat down with businesses directly that will be harmed by this development to listen to their concerns. There's been a lack of transparency this entire time. The Bailey Street lot is used daily by patrons of some of East Lansing's longest-running businesses. Flat Black and Circular, 46 years. The Peanut Barrel, 44 years. Splash of Color, 29 years. Moose Jaw, 29 years. Wild Goose Inn Bed and Breakfast, 27 years. Additionally, Campbell's Market Basket and a number of other restaurants rely on easy access parking for takeout and delivery orders. Why would the city try to pass these plans without listening to our concerns beforehand? The more we learn about the sneaky ways city employees interacted with potential developers, the more disheartened we get. The City of East Lansing should be engaging with their local businesses and their community. We should be making it easier for residents to visit downtown and spend their money in our shops and restaurants. Instead of constructing more housing in the immediate downtown area, there should be a focus on bringing in new, exciting businesses to downtown and working with established businesses to make downtown a destination spot. Give students, locals, and guests from far and away things to do and make it easy to visit. If there's more to do in downtown East Lansing, more people will come to downtown area and explore the places we love. This is simply the wrong location and designed for new housing in East Lansing. We kindly ask friends of the shop and City Council and those here to oppose this position. Thank you very much.
Kristen Fisk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I know we're all tired. We're tired of listening to this. I'm Kirsten Fisk, and I'm a member of this community. I'm also a CEPOLA supporter. I didn't bring tons of studies. I didn't bring graphs that really don't mean anything. I'm not going to ask you to look at lots and lots of data. And you're probably standing there right now thinking, thank you for that. What I'm bringing you is my personal story. This is me. It's just me. It's my story and my feelings. So I'm going to cover two things. I'm going to make it a little shorter than what I wrote. You can have a copy of it. I left it there. The two things I want to cover are cancer and community. Raised eyebrows. What does cancer have to do with the city council? I understand that. Why in the world would you be bringing this forward? It's because of community. In my group of friends, 3 of us were diagnosed with cancer about the same time. I'm going to share my story, and I'm going to have the privilege of sharing the story of an intertwined story of a friend. So the first of us to face a breast cancer diagnosis was Sandy. She's a resident and homeowner in East Lansing, long time. I met Sandy 40-some years ago. She's the manager of the Wharton Center, and she's also a community leader. When she was diagnosed, her husband, who works away from home, or did at that time, immediately got on the internet and started looking up ways to help her through her journey. So he came across this organization called Casting for Recovery. He looked into it and he thought, you know what, that is perfect for our family. We have a love of fly fishing. We have a love of nature. You know what, Sandy? You should do this. So Sandy looks up Casting for Recovery on the internet, tries to apply for one of their free retreats. It doesn't exist. She calls the national office. She said, hey, I'm trying to sign up for a retreat, but I don't find one in Michigan. Well, that's because we don't have a local chapter in Michigan. So they talk to her a little bit more, and they talk her into doing this. I don't think that's what her husband meant when he said you should do this, but she did it, and she took on this project. So to make this thing work, the first thing you got to do is fundraising. Fundraising 101, go to your community. We went to the community we knew. Sandy and a bunch of her friends went to the 500 block. We put together a cornhole tournament with the support of businesses in the 500 block, the support of the city with a permit to use the Bailey Street parking lot for a Sunday afternoon. It was a huge success. Lots and lots of people came. We made enough money that first year to offer our first retreat the following year. So CFR, it's free for participants. It costs nothing. It's a great retreat. It's all about health, wellness, nature. Today, CFR is 7 years strong, as am I. My diagnosis came a year after Sandy's. We couldn't have made this happen without the support of those businesses. We couldn't have made this happen without available open space that we can do events in, that we can do fundraising in, that we can do community events with our partners. So again, I want to do a big shout out to those in the 500 block who supported us, who let us know that good things can come out of bad things. So the parking lot there at Bailey Street was great for us. It's not just a place to park cars. It's an anchor. It's an anchor for our community. It's hosted food venues during the art fair. It hosts the Halloween Wizard of Oz walk where all the children come downtown and they
30
have
seconds
safe
remaining.
Place to trick or treat. It's been home to music festivals and gathering places. So for most of us, it's the lifeblood of the most diverse part of East Lansing. It's the best part of the business community in East Lansing. It provides access, convenience for visitors to both the stores and restaurants. In fact, it's so convenient, I saw the developers team parking there the other day instead of in the ramp or on the street. To give up this space and all that has meant what it means to the communities over, sorry, I guess I'm done. Just one last thing I want to add to this. Not this proposal, not this way, not without community support. We do not support this.
Thank you. I think it's the last name Brewer.
Ling Brewer, and I'm very much against this proposal. I've seen a lot of developments over the years. A lot of them were not very honorable and not very popular. This, I'm hoping, is not one of them. There's a very transparent reason why a lot of these developments went through, and that's because they were able to be fully taxed by the city without the need to have to distribute services for those properties. If this is a done deal, and I have my suspicions that it may be, I want to offer a compromise not unlike something that somebody else before said, and that is to modify the development so that the city could put a parking ramp up on their end of the deal, and I'll get to that in a second. And when we're talking about parking ramps, the number of people that have a stake in parking in that 500 block have got to be in several score. When the Habit Trail parking ramp was built, it was built to the disproportionate benefit of one business, and that was Student Book and Howard Ball Line. Now, if that can be done for one person, not entirely, but if it can be disproportionately done for one person, why can't it be done for 50? And again, this is along the lines of something that somebody else said, and it's consistent with one of Sally Potter's rules of thumb, and that is that the business that somebody is shopping to has to be within the sight line of whoever is doing their parking. If the city retains the ownership of the east end of that, if a parking ramp could be configured to have the upper four stories serve the tenants, and the bottom floor serve bottom one or two floors without any concrete barriers that Sally Potter was talking about, without those barriers and with a clean sight line to allow relatively short-term parking, meaning a couple hours. We don't want to limit the peanut barrel customers to 45 minutes. But to limit the time for the first floor or two, and then give the upper floors to the people that are residents of the new development. And Joe Bell said in his remarks that this needs to be substantially reworked. I believe it does, and I believe you will not accept this proposal. If you're decided to support it, I hope you will not accept it as is. Thank you.
Kyrene? I apologize if I messed that up.
That's all right. My name's Kieran Gay, and I'm new to East Lansing. I moved here approximately 1 year ago. I lived at Newman Lofts for 6 months downtown, and now I live in a house in a student rental area on the edge of the Bailey neighborhood. I urge you to either postpone a decision on this proposed development to wait for a newly elected council, or to vote no for this proposed project. I feel very fortunate after attending the Planning Commission meeting as well as tonight's council, because I am very certain that I now live in a community with so many articulate and thoughtful people who care tremendously about their community, people who've seen developments that they felt good about and developments that they still wish hadn't gone through, but who are still really engaged with their community. And so, as I said, I feel very fortunate to have moved here. I am concerned about who will control the affordability of these housing units, because millions of public dollars are at stake. Millions of public dollars are going to be invested. And I don't know who is going to control how these units are affordable. I'm also very concerned that the people who live in this building, who we're calling workforce or low-income families, I'm very concerned for them that they will not have any open space, because their building will have been built where, as I've heard, really the last main open space in our small downtown exists. Now, I'm concerned for these families that they will have to walk to a parking ramp with their children and park in a parking ramp. And I am also really concerned that these children will not have a park or an open green space right next to where they live. So what is a low-income family? What is an affordable home? Well, the first and foremost thing is that it's a family. And I bet that children are going to be involved in that. So let's listen to the many voices here that have a lot of good ideas, and also 8 developers who were interested in this parking lot. So in other words, plenty of interest for developers in East Lansing. Let's listen to all of those people and to the businesses that have given so much to the community. And let's think of the people who would live in this building and give them a better location for their families. Thank you.
That's the last of my blue slips, but the floor remains open. If you weren't able to enter one in time, feel free to step to the podium to state your name for the record. Hearing, seeing none. At this time, we'll close the public hearing. And then I'll, just to kind of address the audience, just thank you all for coming out and stating your positions. I knew this was going to be action-packed. I was talking to the mayor pro tem. I'm like, this is close to deer conversation, the amount of people here, but we appreciate we appreciate you coming out and talking with us, and just be assured, I know everyone typically doesn't pay attention to council until it's maybe their subject matter, but if you're really paying attention, we're not predetermined on a lot of things, and that's probably what a lot of people will call it chaos, because we are not predetermined in what our selections or choices are going to be. Every single piece of things that were distributed will be read. Part of that process was a lot of things came in late today, and this conversation around housing affordability, and this is a very sensitive subject to Councilperson Watson, and I want to make sure everyone had an opportunity to read some of the things. Some of them came in much later today, and there's a ton of correspondence and that kind of thing. So really, it had nothing to do with trying to allow extra time or people predetermining anything. There's very little predetermination and zero coordination amongst this council on decision making, and that's what you're perceiving sometimes as chaos or that kind of thing. We really do. There's really independent-minded people on this council and very different thinkers. So feel rest assured in that we'll take all these things under consideration. That does allow us extra time to read piles upon piles of correspondence. And thank you for all the work in the community, and that is what makes East Lansing special. Obviously, anytime something comes up in for or in opposition of, we send a rally around it and come together on it, and just know that you are getting a fair hearing, and there are no predetermined decisions out here. And I know how that can look like that sometimes, but there is zero coordination amongst this council on any decisions. So thank you very much for that time. Anything?
I think we need to close the public hearing if we want to be official about it.
Yeah. At this time, I'll close the public hearing.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I don't think we have to vote on that, but we did. It's really closed now. I don't think we do either.
Well, there we go. It's extra official. Public hearing is closed. Anything else for Tim? I didn't mean to trap him there for that long. He has
Queue.
nobody in the queue. Anything else from council for Tim?
Tim, would you there's a couple things in the materials we received that I just ask that you follow up on for our next meeting on this topic. One is I'm confused because there are various statements about what position the city did or didn't take in the last lease negotiation, which I must admit I don't exactly remember. I think I was in the hospital when the council voted on that, but and maybe Mr. Chubb's going to have to look at that. But my very vague recollection is that there's a renewal clause in that lease so that that lease could be renewed ad infinitum, but I don't know, and I'd like somebody to check and report back to us. And then the Metzger-Fabian family reminded me in one of the pieces of correspondence that I think they submitted to the Planning Commission, or excuse me, to the Planning Commission, about things that had happened back in the 90s when, guess what? I was on the Planning Commission. And so I remember the sequence of the two rooming, they're going to call them rooming houses. I guess there were rooming houses. There was a fraternity there. And I know you and I mentioned, or I mentioned this to you a week or so ago, if you could just follow up on that and get the council the documents or a brief synopsis of exactly what happened then in terms of that series of decisions. And as I mentioned to you, it was my recollection, I could be wrong, I'm wrong about a lot of things, about 90% of the time, but it was my recollection that when the Planning Commission was in the midst of that, there were some meetings with the families and with other people from downtown in terms of looking at various solutions. Now, the Metzger-Fabian synopsis of that was that's what ended up in the parking lots. And I just don't remember, and I'd like to know from a historical standpoint. So that would have been about 30 years ago, I think now, which I think set up the situation that we have. So if you could just get us that information, I'd be interested.
Yep, we can provide that.
Yeah, I was going to ask her one more thing. I'm trying to remember all of the discussion around not renewing that lease. Part of it I know was that there was an increase that had been requested, but I believe that part of it was that we were losing money on it because that parking lot was not at capacity. So if you could pull, I think probably Mr. Fehrenbach's memo to council from that meeting, whenever that was, I would be interested in rereading that and just trying to understand the full context of why it was decided that way. Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
We'll do that as well.
Questions?
That's all I needed.
Thank you.
We're good, thanks.
Next up on the business agenda, item 5.1, first reading of ordinance 1526, an ordinance to provide for a service charge in lieu.
We delayed that, didn't we?
Did we push them both?
Yeah.
It's been a long time. It was a long time ago.
Oh, we didn't do that one? Okay.
It's just the first reading, so there's
got it.
nothing.
Oh,
There's no.
so we need to read it.
Yeah,
Never mind.
there's no
Sorry,
action.
Proceed. My bad.
Knock it off. All right. First reading of ordinance 1526, an ordinance to provide for a service charge in lieu of taxes for an affordable housing development at 530 Albert Avenue.
We just need to kind of accept the first reading, or?
Is that the case, City Attorney?
So our action on this is basically just to accept the first reading?
Accept the first reading, correct.
I'll make a motion to accept the first reading of ordinance 1526, an ordinance to provide for a service in lieu of taxes for an affordable housing development at 530 Albert Avenue.
I second that, but again, for the sake of the audience and all these folks that turned out, Mr. Chubb, would you simply explain to us what this ministerial step is that we're doing right now?
Sure. Under the charter, all ordinances, the payment in lieu of taxes ordinance is an ordinance. All of them under the charter must have a first reading. That doesn't have any effect until it's voted on at the second reading, which would take place on October 17th.
Thank you.
It's essentially kind of notice to people that this is on the horizon, then if they have thoughts on it, that this is their opportunity to make them known.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sounds good. Further discussion? All right. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, item 6.1, closed session. City Attorney requests a closed session pursuant to MCL 15268 1H to discuss an attorney-client privilege memorandum that is exempt from disclosure pursuant to MCL 15.243 1G. I believe this requires a roll call vote.
Councilmember Brookover,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson, Mayor Pro Tem Gregg,
Yes.
Mayor Bacon.
Yes. And we'll only be returning to the chamber to adjourn this meeting. So essentially for the public, the meeting is adjourned. Welcome back, and meeting adjourned.